Welcome to Frankly Speaking, where truth is our mission, reality our realm, set as we see it, and frankly as well. I'm Joe Spina along with Paul Crowley.
Hi, Joe. Merry Christmas.
And well, happy holidays.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
I do Christmas myself,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to be ecumenical.
I would say happy holidays to all the folks out in the audience, but to you, Merry Christmas.
Well, we're going to put up a little card that we made,
Okay.
if we can, and it's a little Merry Christmas from you and me to our listeners, and we hope that they enjoy their Christmas season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paul, before we get into much, I want to do my Frankly Joe. We'll get that out of the way, and we'll do Frankly Paul and get that out of the way.
All right.
And then there's a few things I want to go over if we can. You know, we'll kind of review, folks, the year that just went by, rather quickly, I might add. So, Frankly Joe, as Christmas approaches and the new year is upon us, it's a good time to reflect. Change is a constant, some good, some not so good. Regardless, life goes on. The trick is to live life to the fullest. Family and friends, that's what's important. So in that spirit, Paul and I want to wish you and all, one and all, a very Merry Christmas and the happiest of New Year's. In that same vein, Paul, why don't you polish yours off?
That's very nice, Joe.
And you have some nice things to say, too, by the way, Paul.
Just so everybody at home knows, while I'll be actually saying it, guess who wrote it? In case it goes bad.
You lay it on me.
Yeah.
Frankly, Paul.
Right. So I think this says, "'Tis the season to feel jolly." So let's put aside all the animus and divisiveness that too often separates us and enjoy the comfort and warmth of family and friends. There's much to unite us if we get to take the time and the effort to find it. My resolution for the new year is to seek common ground and on that foundation work to make things a little better. Meanwhile, to all, happy holidays and a splendid new year. Now, while I can't take responsibility for writing this resolution to seek common ground, believe it or not, I've actually come to that conclusion in recent days, and I'd like to share with you and the folks back home what I mean by that. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, back about a year ago or so, no, this is probably, it's a couple of years ago, so it goes back when Barack Obama was the president. And I think everybody knows that I didn't really care for him as a president, but over that whole period, the 8 years that I watched him and so forth and developed my attitudes towards him and about his policies and so forth, I found myself mixing my feelings toward him as a person and as a president versus my feelings towards his policies. So and a couple of years ago, I mentioned to somebody in the senior center, person of color, that I thought Barack Obama was a lousy president. And I think because of the way the animus works and what goes on in the news media and all that kind of stuff, the narrative was, if you didn't like Barack Obama, you were racist.
Yes.
Okay.
That still exists, Paul.
Right. It does. So my point is that I am only now starting to fully realize that what I disliked the most about Barack Obama was not his personality, the color of his skin, you know, who he is and what he's all about kind of thing. It's what his policies were. His policies I thought were bad for the country, period. All right? And the reason I was able to come to that conclusion is because some of the conversations that I've been having with people in the world I'm in, where we talk regularly about you know, the politics and, you know, and Donald Trump and so forth. And I hear constantly how those people that are opposed to Donald Trump are opposed to him because they don't like him as a person.
I got you.
It's kind of the reverse, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, who would you rather have a beer with? Some people might say Donald Trump and some people might say Barack Obama. Or who do you think that by understanding the persona is a more likable guy? And I think Barack Obama is clearly the more likable of the two, based on persona, you know?
Wait a minute. I'm going to stop you for 1 second. Based on narrative, not in reality, Donald Trump in reality, is considered a very affable guy. Everybody enjoys his company,
Right,
play
but,
golf
but,
with him.
but we don't see that.
That's right, because the media doesn't show that.
Okay.
Because it glorifies one and denigrates the other.
And I'll concur with that as well. My only point in all of this is I think that, you know, and I was trying to have this conversation. We were having a little break at a conference that I was at, and so I was talking to this fellow, a new guy in the mix, and he was talking about how the Access Hollywood tapes was proof certain that Donald Trump was sexually harassing people, and he admitted it. But
No, he didn't.
No, that's what I mean. He was talking. He's a bloviator, and you know that whole locker room talk kind of thing. But I'm not here. I don't want to ever be somebody who is making excuses for Donald Trump's personal behavior and so forth. I want the conversation to be focused on his policies. I don't. So from here on in,
That's your resolution?
yes, I'm going to focus on the policies, and not just the policies of Donald Trump, but also the policies of Elizabeth Warren. And I didn't get a chance to get to you today, but I actually was down in D.C. and I went and saw Elizabeth Warren. And I know my folks back home are going to think I moved over to the dark side, but the fact of the matter is, Elizabeth Warren, whether you like her or not, she's in a position of power at the Senate, and if I need something for the elders that we support, I need to be advocating for them, and I need to advocate to whoever's in power.
Paul, let me go back to that Access Hollywood tape.
Okay.
NBC owned that tape. That was dredged up way in the past.
Right. For when they needed it.
They had that specifically and timed it specifically to put a stake in his heart.
Yep.
It didn't happen.
Right.
They turned blue on that one.
Right.
Do you realize that Donald Trump is the guy pulling the strings, contrary to popular belief? Know what happened to NBC? Mac Lauer, Harvey Weinstein was buddy-buddy with Zucker, right? Halpern, Harold Ford Jr. Want me to go down the list?
In one way or another, I don't know how he's doing it, but he is draining the swamp.
And let me say this to you, folks. Mark my words, Paul. Nobody believed me when I told you that Trump was going to win. Nobody believed me. 7 people owe me $100 a pop. All Democrats never paid me. All right, because they thought they had a sure bet. I'm going to give you a prediction, since this is the time to predict. Mueller better watch himself, because trust me, the trap has been set for him. If you notice, everything is dribbling out about collusion. Collusion what? What kind of collusion was there, Paul? It was collusion of the FBI and the Justice Department and the former Obama administration trying to tattoo Trump in transition, Paul.
Right.
In transition.
Well, you know, the rules for radicals. Whatever you do that's wrong, characterize the other side as having doing the same
Precisely.
thing.
But Trump is too smart for he's not sitting on tens of billions of dollars. He didn't recover from bankruptcy because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
See, this is a mistake they made. These are arrogant people.
Right.
Have you heard of Obama lately? Where's he been? He's like, nobody pays any attention to him.
The only time his name is coming up is when he's in trouble.
And when they talk,
How about the Politico story?
What about Hillary Clinton? Look, someone was on a radio program the other day. It was fascinating about how awful the Clinton Foundation treated the Haitian people. The kind of money that they derived was a criminal enterprise, and a Fox.
All under the pretense of helping the Haitians.
Gave them nothing.
And let me tell you something. The root of everything that I do is always built on the predicate of trying to help the individuals, and everything else will kind of come together as a result of it. Whereas what I see the Clintons doing, especially in this Haitian kind of argument that you're talking about, is that everything was about lining their own pockets with the excuse that they were doing it for the Haitians. That was the predicate that they would use as an excuse, not.
It was brutal what they did to the Haitian people. The amount of money they collected and the scam there was.
How long ago was that massive earthquake? That was years and years ago.
Not that far long. It was within my lifetime.
No, but it was it was in the Obama administration.
Yes, it was.
But I'm saying early in the Obama administration, and my point is that all these years later, and nothing has really happened. And then you
Who
look
was
at what
his
happened.
partner? Who was his partner on that on the issue on helping out Haiti? Who did he hook up with? George Bush the Elder, if you remember correctly.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right, and you know, so
Both of whom went after Trump.
So you don't hear anything about how Haiti hasn't really ever recovered from that, in spite of all of the help from the Clinton Foundation, right?
They've got nothing.
Right. You know, so they've never recovered.
No.
Right. And now what you hear is that after the devastating storms that wreaked havoc down in Puerto Rico, they don't have power and all that kind of stuff. Everything I hear is that it's Donald Trump's fault. It's Donald Trump's fault that it isn't happening fast enough.
If you listen to those naysayers who want to bring the guy down.
Right. No, I understand.
That's all it
and that's
is.
my point.
But, yeah,
that's the
go ahead.
point I'm making is that, you know, here it is less than a year after that happened. It's months after it happened, and they're trying to figure out a way to blame Donald Trump forever and ever about how it went. Whereas this thing about Haiti, they don't even talk about it failing miserably, even though it should have
ISIS
succeeded.
is almost completely destroyed.
And they don't even talk about it.
And they don't talk about it. The stock market's gone crazy. The economy's booming. The gross national product is on fire. That's not an accident, Paul.
Right.
And we're being respected around the world. Paul, before we go to break, which is coming up shortly, speaking of you helping people, I ran into this young lady at Walmart, lovely lady. Married name is Faye. Maiden name was Champa. She's had some health problems, and my understanding is that you're helping her out, that you're going to give her a phone call. She had a problem getting medical rides.
I don't know specifically what her issues are, but I'm going to certainly reach out to her and see what I can do to help.
And I know you will. So,
Right.
and she's a listener.
And by the way,
Yeah.
Mrs. Champa,
Faye was her married name.
Mrs. Faye, your late husband, Jack Faye, was my Little League coach. He was a phenomenal guy. And your brother, Dick Champa, was also my Little League coach. And
that means help
they
us
were
are coming.
phenomenal. They taught me everything I know about baseball.
So a gift is coming, a Christmas gift. So
Well,
stay tuned.
I'll call anyway. We'll see what we can do to help.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm sure she will. Folks, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with segment 2, Paul.
Okay, sounds good.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up one finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
And we're back. If we can, we're going to do a little stuff on Christmas, a few trivia points. And first thing that we're going to come up with is a little thing on, interestingly, it's the Star of David, but nearly all the most popular Christmas songs, including Winter Wonderland, Chestnuts Roasting on a Fireplace, I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas, they're all written by Jewish people, Paul. Kind of ironic, isn't it?
Well, it just goes to show you that, you know, the idea of enjoying the holidays with friends and family doesn't have to be about, you know, what particular religion you subscribe to.
Matter of fact, Irving Berlin wrote I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas, right?
Yep.
That's the #1 selling song all time, with over 100 million
Bing Crosby, right?
sang it. You're right.
Yep.
What's happening here during World War I, Paul?
So during the Christmas of 1914, which was World War I, a truce was held between Germany and the United Kingdom. They decorated their shelters, exchanged gifts across no man's land, and played a game of football between themselves.
Isn't that amazing? Talk about ecumenical. I mean, they take a pause from shooting each other in trenches to enjoy the Christmas season.
Makes you really think long and hard about, what's the point of the war and all that kind of, I mean, it just doesn't make
That's
any
insanity, of course.
Right.
Now, how about the other part? What about making Christmas every day?
Making Christmas every day?
Yeah.
Why not, you mean?
Why not? Rejoice, joy.
Well, so I'm kind of what most people refer to as a Scrooge when it comes to Christmas. And what I mean by that is that I don't get into the Christmas spirit that
Really?
much. And it's not about the joy and goodwill towards men type of stuff. It's about the over-commercialization and the materialistic aspects of Christmas
That troubles you?
That troubles me, yes. As a former accountant and a very cynical person, I came to the conclusion a very long time ago that the merchants created this idea of Santa Claus and Christmas because they wanted to get their sales up by the end of the year, and that's why Christmas is at the end in December.
We'll get into that. That's one of our great points. Speaking to that, folks, you're looking at I believe it's either today or tomorrow or this week, you're going to get a Christmas present from the federal government, which is going to be a tax cut, or in other words, you will get $400 to $500 in the city of Lynn for the average family, extra money that you won't have to give the federal government in taxes. Well, I got a better deal because my family came up with a concept this year, which is saving me a barrel, and it's this. Everybody seniors buy a $25 gift, that's it. Throw it in a pile, and then you draw, and pick whatever gift you want. No kid that has graduated from high school gets a present, which saves me 4 grandkids. So only 3 of my grandkids qualify for Christmas gifts, and no adults get any. That, to me, is a great idea. And getting to, you like that one, Paul?
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, kids, thank you for being so ingenious. White Christmas, listen to this, folks, between the 16th and the 19th centuries, what is known as the Little Ice Age, where global temperatures were several degrees lower than normal. It is for this reason that many Christmas carols and songs stress a white Christmas. Now, Al Gore, eat your hat out. You know what I mean? So this climate change and global stuff has been happening centuries. It's a normal diastolic and systolic of nature.
So I was reading this morning, I think, that they figured out that the first life forms on this planet were, they estimate now, 3.5 billion with a B years ago, right? So 3.5 billion years ago. And the experiment that is the United States is less than 250 years old, right? So, and I never did the actual math, but if you take the fraction that is created by dividing 250 years by 3.5 billion years, you get such a small fraction that it wouldn't represent a true enough of a sample size to actually conclude anything about any changes that have occurred in that 250-year cycle, you know?
But Paul, what I'm fascinated by is that this is pipe dreams. I mean, nobody knows. Evolution's a theory. Nobody knows for absolute certitude.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a reasonable explanation that makes sense that at one time, guess what? You and I were parameciums, one-cell animals, 3.5 billion years ago, and all of a sudden they got married, and they formed a 2-cell animal that was whatever, and before you know it, you had a worm, and from there, all hell broke loose, and we evolved. What's next, Paul? Robots? Are we going to now turn into machines, and that's it? I mean, evolution is change, Paul. That's all it is. It's gradual change moving forward.
Well, and I always think, they talk about, climate change being real, and in the work that we're doing at GLIS, we have to do a lot of discovery work. So what we're trying to establish, for example, does giving somebody a meal every day, making sure that they get fed Monday through Friday, Meals on Wheels type stuff, does that improve their health and health outcomes? trying to figure that out. And along the way, we came to the conclusion, people came to the conclusion, I think erroneously, that it absolutely does. But what we were finding out is that some people were taking that meal. You go into their house some days because they invite you in or whatever, and you look over in the corner and the meals are stacked up like this. They're not even actually eating them, and they're doing okay. And then in other cases where they take it and they give it to the dog. But what's most important about the delivery of the meals is the interaction with somebody on a daily basis. In many cases,
Of course.
So you can't draw. It's not exactly. It's never cause and effect, especially when it comes to climate, especially when it comes to this type of stuff.
Question.
You can draw a correlation, but you can't do a cause and effect.
Who's the greatest beneficiary of Thanksgiving charity? You know, you see people who are homeless, and all of a sudden someone hands them a turkey. Well, they don't have homes. They can't cook the turkey. Get what I mean? And the great beneficiary of the food that we dump on homeless people or people in need are the ants that end up eating the food that they can't eat, right?
I suppose you can make that
people
argument,
trying to do the right thing out of that, don't stop and realize it's a waste. Like you're talking about people stacking up good meals.
Yeah, now...
Isn't that silly?
Well, and I would just say that on Thanksgiving Day,
Yeah.
Glisten, a lot of our staff volunteer to go up to Spuds, which is over in Saugus. And what we do is we get between 5 and 10 meals a piece, hot, fresh off the cooking, and put it in a package. It's cooked, and we hand deliver it to. And
it's manageable,
right? And so we'll do 5 or 10 meals, and we all go around and deliver them out. And so people are actually eating those; they're not going to the ants. And then you get George Marcos down at Brothers Deli, who opens his kitchen up, and he feeds anybody who wants to come in for a meal can get fed. So while I agree, you know, if I'm going to give somebody who's homeless a 20-pound frozen turkey for Thanksgiving, you know, it's kind of a foolish thing because it's not going to really do anything. Unless, of course, he could turn around, him or her could turn around and maybe sell it for somebody. You know, that might be...
For what purpose?
Yeah, I mean... That's why people go to gift cards and you know, and to me, you know what would be best, I think, for somebody who doesn't have a place to live on Thanksgiving is to be invited to somebody's home. That would be nice.
Yeah, that's
that would
charity.
be like, that would be, I think that's really where we should be going with this thing.
The point of the matter is, there's no excuse for poverty in this country. None. That's the net bottom line. You know, most of the stuff is substance abuse or mental problems when they did deinstitutionalization. Very few people in this country are really in position to be starved and be without a home. Very few.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with all of your thoughts there, but I will say that I don't believe that the United States has had a case of starvation my entire lifetime. Has anybody in the United States ever, is there a recorded case of somebody dying of starvation in this country? I don't think so. Food insecurity is a different problem.
Yeah.
And I would think that the matter of obesity is a bigger issue than the matter of being underfed.
Paul, go into any supermarket anytime in the city of Lynn, and the place is loaded with food, right?
Yeah.
At a reasonable, cheap prices. So I don't see malnutrition and starvation as an issue. We just had a break. The last break was about diabetes. You know how diabetes, because like me, too fat, eat too much, and that's what's going to happen. So, you know, to listen to some of these folks, the same people who talk about climate change is the end of the world. Well, the world, folks, the world is not going to end anytime soon.
Well, I don't know if we have time for this, but I'll just tell you a quick story. I think I may have told you this about a local, I won't speak to the newspaper, but a newspaper that handles our area called me up and wanted to do a story on the impending cuts to the Meals on Wheels program at the federal level. And they wanted to know, you know, as a Meals on Wheels provider, the impact. So we spend about $2.5 million a year providing meals to people in the community, all right? And the impact of this cut, if it happened, and it never happened, by the way, but if it had happened, was going to be 1% on us, $25,000. So nobody was going to go without. It was, we were going to have to, you know, shorten some hours here, maybe wait an extra year before we buy another vehicle. We're going to be able to manage it, right? So when I explained all that to the reporter didn't get back to me. And she was talking about going and doing shadowing one of our drivers and so forth. But so I called her back when she didn't get to me, and I said, so you're going to come out and shadow us? You want to learn more about we're going to do a story? You know, I think it's an important thing. And she said, no, I talked to my editor, and they really don't want to do anything about it. And the reason they didn't want, she didn't say this, but the reason they didn't want to do anything about it is because it wasn't going to make Donald Trump look bad. It was as simple as that. The fact of the matter is, they scream bloody murder about these things, and there really isn't bloody murder at all. There's lots of, you know, the only ones that were going to be impacted were the providers, and they were going to just have to manage it better, that's all.
Put up that white Christmas. The U.S. playing card company, known as Bicycle, had manufactured a playing card in World War II, Paul, which would reveal an escape route for POWs when it was soaked.
Really?
These cards were Christmas presents to all POWs in Germany. The Nazis were none the wiser. How do you like that one?
I'd love to see one of those. Is that true?
Of course it's true. Do I tell fibs on the show? Here, truth is our mission, reality our realm, said as we see it, and frankly as well. And to your point, Paul.
Have you ever seen one of these things?
No. But
that's the coolest thing I've ever heard of.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Now take a look at the last one, which is the point you made earlier.
Christmas purchases account for 1/6 of all retail sales in the U.S. annually, and it all happens on Black Friday, I think.
Didn't you mention that at the beginning of the segment?
Yeah.
That, folks, listen to this.
It's over-commercialized.
1/6 of all sales, retail sales,
right,
happen at Christmas time.
It's gotten to the point where people say, let's wait and I'll get it for you for Christmas. Because it's almost like you have to do that because, and I don't know about you, you probably even more than me. When I was a kid, there were 6 of us. We all got like one toy, but basically everything was clothing, you know? And
Hey,
it was because we needed it.
There was one of me, and my brothers and sisters were 15 years older than me. I mean, I was loaded down with toys and stuff. Oh, I love Christmas. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I came along when my father made it in America. You get what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
yeah, I guess it all depends on the economic circumstances.
Exactly.
For sure, yeah.
So, in other words, folks, I was spoiled. And that's the simple way of it. And you know what? Spoil your kids and your grandkids. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. As long as you teach them to love and value and respect, Paul, a lot of that's messy. We're going to go to a short break. And when we come back, we're going to take a little stroll around Lynn.
Okay.
All right?
Great.
All right, we'll be back.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you're beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
That's
Folks, did you ever play musical chairs when you were a kid? Well, in the city of Lynn, they've been playing musical chairs all year long, Paul.
For years, though. It's not just
But
all years
in the
long.
last year, there's some really, you know, I mean, boom, boom, the music's playing and a lot of different stuff is happening. So let's take a peek. We have a new mayor, and congratulations to Tom McGee.
Yep.
But his seat could be contested by the former mayor, right? Or the mayor defeated.
She better pull papers pretty quick.
Yeah, but she can qualify, and we definitely know that Representative Creighton has already qualified or mentioned that he's be running. And some other moving chairs. Representative Fennell went to the Lynn Water Sewer Commission, and then Dan Kale left the city council to become the rep from that district.
He did, yeah. He didn't actually leave the city council. He was both.
For a while.
Right.
For a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So he didn't run for re-election.
Right.
Yeah.
So Creighton did the same thing to make sure that you didn't get on the council. Did you ever think of that?
He did do that, yeah.
I'm being fresh, folks.
I would say that it was more about the money than it was about
I'm
keeping
sure.
me off the council.
You know,
Although that was kind of a bonus, because the last thing that people want is me on the city council asking questions and wanting to make changes. We can't have that stuff.
to clarify, folks, it goes like this. Paul finished by a handful of votes 5th in a race that you 4 qualified, correct?
Right.
So you got nosed out by Brendan Creighton, or Creighton, however you say it. And had he, upon becoming rep, left, you would have been elevated to that spot,
Right.
correct?
Right.
It didn't happen. Dan Kale fundamentally did the same thing.
Right.
When he became the rep, he remained on the city council. He chose not to run for re-election,
Right.
nor did Brendan. Both of them did the wise thing by not running.
Yeah, I think that's smart, right? And there's nothing that says you can't do it.
That's right. It wasn't unethical.
And look, and you know, we all have to live, right? And you know, there's money involved. It was $25,000. You know?
Maybe I should run for office, folks. 25,000. It's a lot better than get a bottle of water. Anyway, at the same time, it was a budget crunch, and it still exists. By the way, Beyond Walls, I like that. That was a positive.
Yeah. Have you been under the bridge at night? You see all
Not
the
yet.
lights? Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is?
Because you know, it gets dark at like 4:15 now. It's going to be we're getting close to the shortest day of the year, right? Right around now.
The shortest day of the year is December 21st, called winter solstice.
Yes. Yep.
And you know what, folks? Listen to this. From the North Pole to the South Pole, complete darkness, 24 hours on the South Pole and the North Pole. And then the very next day, it all starts lengthening again.
Right. Yeah.
And we move toward equinox.
And the general rule is you pick up like 2 minutes a day, right? Something like that.
Something to that effect. Consider it the eye. You know how if you put light to the eye, it contracts, and then it expands.
Right.
Same
so
principle.
the reason I say that is so 2 minutes a day. So we're going to have the shortest day of the year coming up. Today's what, the 18th maybe?
Today, yeah.
18th.
It will be this week. The people watching this show
Today's
are going
the
to be watching
19th.
the show today.
So on Thursday is going to be the shortest day of the year, and then so on December 22nd we'll increase by a couple of minutes.
Right.
So by January 22nd, less than 30 days, it'll be light an hour more.
Very
So something
good.
to think about. It's not bad.
Something to look forward to, huh?
Right. And then another month after that, it'll be another hour.
You're a genius, you know that? Pretty bright guy. Folks, he's a pretty bright guy. Paul, speaking of which, folks, you people out there, tune in, because this is our last show for this year, and we'll be off for the holidays, but we'll be going on live Thursday nights. Mark this down, Thursday at 5, right after the New Year.
That'll be live in case you want to call in.
Yeah, it'll be live call-in.
And that's still that's the target date, but it's still subject to change, right? We're shooting for.
It's pretty much locked in. Only
So it's the second week of January, right?
Correct. We should be going on live on Thursday night. So mark that down live. Get your and we'll be having some little prizes out there for trivia questions and general knowledge that they got to follow. A spin around Lynn, just a quick spin around Lynn.
Okay.
Paul, this medical village thing that's happening up at the hospital. Do you hear anything about it? The hospital is gone, right? I mean,
Yeah, I was at a meeting late last week. It's gone. Yep. You know, the conversation isn't around if it will happen. The conversation around is when.
so is there any hope of this medical village, whatever that means?
Yeah, the way I understand it is they're going to make it into an urgent care facility.
Urgent care,
Urgent care, which I think is not,
like a heart attack,
it's
but not trauma center.
right.
Now, is it conceivable or would it be wise for the incoming mayor, who also was a heavy hitter in the state, right? There's a senator, head of the Democratic Party. would it be wise for him to propose to see if the state would be interested in putting a trauma center because of the highway, access to the highways is so close? You know, that would save a lot of time between there and getting to Salem Hospital. A trauma center, that's all.
The only thing I would say about that is whenever you try to do anything like that, the Department of Public Health requires you to file what's called a determination of need, and the administrative burden of doing a determination of need is something on the order of 3, 4, 5 years in the making. You have to go through all
So therefore, bureaucracy is a pain,
So
right?
I guess what I'm saying is if they were going to do something like that, it would have already been part of the plan.
Yeah.
And they can make some changes to the plan, but not major changes to it.
But doesn't it make eminent sense that a given geography, the geography of the area, doesn't it make sense that the facility is there, has quick access to Route 1, 95, and 93. Quick access to all three of them.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about getting into traffic jams. You spoke eloquently last week about how difficult it is to get through Lynn at certain times of the day. So you're putting a lot of people...
Highland Ave is a pretty tough road to traverse as well.
Well, that's the whole point.
But so let me just say this about, you know, the idea of a, let's call it a trauma center.
Just a trauma center.
So part of the whole consolidation that's going on with the health world, where they're trying to they took Salem Hospital, which had its own ER, and then you have Union Hospital, its own ER. And if you go back 20 years, there was the Lynn Hospital had its own ER, you know, so there were all these ERs. The way things have consolidated now, they're trying to figure out a way to consolidate the ER into one place. That's obvious. I think everybody understands that. Additionally, they're moving, and GLIS is a big part of this. We're very much involved in moving away from waiting for somebody to get sick or ill or in crisis to go to the hospital and trying to get them to be more mindful of what they can do to prevent it in the first place, A, and B, when it does happen, you know, picking an urgent care center versus an emergency call, because that's the, you know, that's all you need. For example, if I let's just say, and I did this, I don't know what I did to my finger, but I was playing basketball, and for the past 3 weeks it's been swollen. I can't squeeze the trigger on the
So you can't go to a trauma center for that, Paul.
Right. But it probably needs an x-ray to find out what's actually wrong with it. So why would I need to go to an emergency room? Now, if this was 30 years ago, or even more when I was a child, you know, maybe that's the only place to go.
Paul, you were born in the frozen food section of the Stop and Shop, for God's sakes, okay? I mean, when the population of this country was 125 million, it's about 330 now, we had 2 hospitals booming in this city.
Right.
Okay, and everybody was getting good service and good health care.
But it was all tertiary care related. In other words, you only went there, you know, you went there for emergency, and you went there for operations and
babies.
Right, and babies,
yeah.
Right? But the fact is, today what we need to be doing is healthcare is so comprehensive now. You have mental health components, you have social determinants of health issues, you have long-term service and support issues, and if all those things are built into the equation and the individual is playing a greater role in their own healthcare...
Has nothing to do with a hospital, Paul.
No, absolutely. My point is that the center of the universe isn't the hospital anymore. The center of the universe is the individual and their primary care.
Well, maybe those great thinkers from Harvard School of Medicine ought to rethink about what the formulation should be, because it worked very nicely, and it isn't right now.
Well, let me just say that that's what is happening. The result of many years of trying to change this thing around is basically trying to take the tertiary system, the hospital systems, and put that as a needs-based thing instead of the primary, and that's really what this is all about. It's needs-based now.
But Paul, let me separate this. That's all good and well. An accident on the highway has got nothing to do with preventive care. It's got nothing to do with health per se. It's an accident that's going to happen, and it's unpreventable. Right. There's X amount of accidents statistically are going to have them.
So you have to have the ambulances and the hospital ER strategically located to be able to handle
So
all
a
that.
trauma center, separate from all the other things you're talking about, makes eminent sense at certain geographic locations where there's a heavy traffic load. That's all I'm saying. And Union Hospital is centered perfectly for that function. That's what they should think. There's no creative thinkers anymore, Paul.
No.
No creative thinkers. So, one concept I do like came from Wayne Losey.
What's that?
The LEDs, putting all the streetlights LEDs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it saves a barrel of money. It costs about $2 million up front, and it saves $400,000 a year, and it makes sense. And yet I don't hear anybody talking about it, except Wayne Losey.
And so my wife and I recently had our kitchen done over, and the electrician put in LED lights.
And
what he told me is that the amount of power that it takes to run LEDs for an entire year is equivalent to what I've been spending in about a month.
okay. So you save a ton of money.
Yep.
You don't impact the environment negatively. You don't have these turbines going
And
crazy.
and I thought for sure that the lights weren't going to be bright enough, but they're plenty bright.
Not only that, as I've mentioned before, folks, keep listening to this. In Japan and in Denmark, or Scotland actually, they turned around and they can do colors with these things. They made them blue. And the suicide rate and the murder rate went down. How do you like that one?
Because
So it has psychological aspects to it also.
maybe.
Not maybe. Not maybe. It's
So you say that there's a cause and effect?
Of course there is. The Navy has done marvelous studies in the space program on this, of which, by the way, Obama got rid of the space program. Thank God. Trump is bringing it back. In order to be underwater for 3 months and 6 months, you're going to go stir crazy. So they did research on the psychology of color, smell, and environment. If you're going spacey, if you're flipping out, they stick you in a pink room. Did you know that? Calms you down. The different colors changes moods in a person's perception, the way they see it. So yeah, there's a lot of research.
Is that why I'm toning down my conservative views, because I'm surrounded by green?
Green is bad in certain ways. On that note, folks, we're going to take a very short break and be back with more pearls of wisdom.
I want a place I can enjoy every day,
where my son can play outside.
that inspires me. Some places have the power to move us. And even transform us. This is the power of place. The power of parks and open spaces to transform whole communities by connecting us to nature, to each other, and to ourselves. This is the work of the Trust for Public Land. At a time when many of us are spending more time online than outdoors, we're putting nature within reach of every person in America. Help us create the power of place and healthier, happier communities nationwide.
And the Return of the Jedi. I'm Joe Spina along with Paul Crowley. And we're going to get to comments, Paul.
Okay.
This is our thing. For the folks out there, and by the way, we thank you for responding to our show and writing us on Facebook. So this is a fascinating one, Paul. It's pretty tough to read because I'm getting a little old here.
Want me to read it?
You are going to read it. It's from Jerry A.
Okay. Too frankly speaking, a clarification. A public information release from the Board of Assessors in Lynn, Mass. That appeared on the City of Lynn website stated, quote, based on the comments and feedback provided by the public, the assessors will make any necessary adjustments or corrections prior to the finalizations of values for fiscal year 2018. Any adjustments or corrections must be finalized no later than December 4, 2017 in order to be reflected in the 18 actual tax bills. Now, and there's more to it, but I just want to just comment on that piece of it, because what's interesting is, didn't the story in the paper say no to that?
No, we said on our show because it was announced that the 4th was the cutoff date.
Right. And then somebody tried to do it, and Peter Karen was quoted as saying, no,
it can't happen. Then there was a correction made that, in fact, Dave Sear was on the show and said, no, that's not the way. It's actually in February. So go forward with
Okay.
it.
So after reading this statement from the assessor's office on the Lynn website and upon visiting the assessor's office during this period, and there were many of us, this was not possible. This statement to come into the assessor's office before December 4 for corrections and adjustments came from the Board of Assessors, not frankly speaking. So, you know, so there was that thing, and there was a story in the paper, but we took what we heard, what we found about in the newspaper and what was on the website, and we conveyed that message to home. So essentially, we were a secondary party.
We never suggested that we had direct knowledge. We said, apparently, you know, in that sense.
But we were right, though, too.
Yes,
according to
we
what
were
they said.
trying to get the information out to the folks, and the critique is that while we were doing it, sure there wasn't any time. In other words, you had to do it quickly, and being a senior citizen myself and eligible for abatements, you know, I thought that.
By the way, there are certain rules on the books that require adequate notice and so forth.
That's right.
And I'm not sure that they gave adequate notice.
Well, there was a mix-up. Council President Sear was on while you were down in Washington, D.C. playing around with Elizabeth Warren and the teepee. So, anyway, he picked up on it and said it was an error, and we clarified it, and he gave an exposition saying that this could take place in February, that in the meantime, if you needed information, call him or the assessor, or if you wanted to do anything on your own, you could get a realtor and you could do a survey of 3 houses in your market area to find out whether you're in line with them and submit that.
Right.
So that was what was left.
Right.
Now, Jerry A.
has more to say.
Right.
Okay.
So he actually picked up on it, and thank you, Jerry A., for all, you know, he's trying to clarify, right? He's trying to say, in effect, well, they're saying, don't get it from frankly speaking. That's what the assessors are saying, right?
Right.
Well, where the heck did we think we got the information from? The skies?
Right.
You know?
That, you know, and I don't know who said that, and it might have been Peter, I don't know, but it's really kind of infuriating because this is not a Peter Karen thing. This is like a kind of a city hall thing. It's kind of a city hall thing, and you pick the town or city USA, right? They basically immediately look to push it out blame it on somebody else. It wasn't them. They didn't do it.
But here's the point, Paul. We're trying to do a public service for the people of the city of Lynn.
Right.
Right. Obviously, we will have a viewership. Otherwise, a lot of these people wouldn't have complained. Right. So in a left-handed way, they should be thankful to us for trying to get across, and they should probably use us as a vehicle to get stuff like this out to the public.
Right.
Because they're not getting it from the item.
Right.
If they are, it was bad news.
Right, or incorrect. Okay, so Jerry A. goes on to say, he asks the question, is it possible to make tri-town regional schools to take the burden off the Lynn school systems? He further asks, can the commercial properties take more of the tax burden than the homeowner? And then he says he is an avid, frankly speaking, show watcher.
Watches, plural.
Right.
Okay, let's do the first one. A tri-city school, regional schools have happened all over the place.
Right.
There's Massasomic, is that how you say it, or whatever, Massacomic?
Masconomic.
That's it.
Right, and then
Very
they have
good,
the
Paul.
Northeast Regional, but that's like just a vocational school, and it's like all communities in the area, it's like Wakefield and surrounding towns, all have connection to it. And a good example is, it's kind of a reciprocity type of thing that exists with Nahant. There was a time when if you were a Nahant kid, they don't have a high school, so what they had
They have choice.
But they had a choice of coming to Lynn.
Or Swampscott.
Yeah, but now they don't have a choice to come to Lynn. They all go to Swampscott.
That's because they chose to go there.
Right.
Okay. Now, my point is to you, is this. Why isn't it that we can't spread our students outside of the community? That's the whole point. If you have a community, Revere, Saugus, Salem, Swampscott, Linfield, communities around us that are underrepresented, why can't we send our students to those schools?
Because they won't let us.
We'll send them. Well, they won't let us, but what about if we supersede that? I mean, why is it all coming to the city of Lynn?
Well, and so, you know...
Not in my neighborhood? Is that the mindset?
Well,
This is a good concept, by the way, that Jerry A. has.
But, you know, it's the follow the money is an issue here as well. And what I mean by that and this is the same thing, and I can speak to how fire departments are the same way. The first thing that happens when you say, I want to send some of the Lynn kids to outlying communities, not only do the outlying communities say no, but the Lynn school system says no, because they don't want their budget to shrink. The union doesn't want to lose their members.
Well, let's put that aside.
So all the economics that come into play.
We've been prompted to get to the next comment,
Okay.
and we're going to do that.
All right.
We'll stay with this, Jerry. This one is from Malcolm Mitchell. Malcolm, always a pleasure.
Am I
I'm waiting
reading
for
it?
you. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello,
Joe.
Comment to you.
Hello, Joe and Paul. I enjoy your latest show, and Paul, you are a very integral part of the program with your insight into the issues our city faces today. Well, thank you for that, Malcolm. I'd like to
Yeah,
I'd like to concur with that, but that would be a
Keep
little
going
bit,
before your head gets fatter.
I would like to comment on the, quote, demise of the newspaper industry. First off, if the item were to cease to exist, it would be because of the poor management of the paper and the lack of proofreaders and a talented reporting staff. I love that, because I agree. That's been going on for a very long time. I mean, how many times have you picked up the item and not found a grammatical problem within the first paragraph or two of a story you're reading? It's always been like that. But anyway. So
No, and talented reporting
staff that hardly ever verified the facts before putting the paper to bed. And I can attest to that, because the guy wrote 3 stories about me. He tried to get me to respond, and I refused to respond. And so he just made the stuff up instead, because he didn't have it. What he should have done is says, I can't do a complete.
That's the point he's making.
Right.
You know, they don't do facts. He talks about when he read 4 or 5 newspapers, keep up with the news.
Right.
It's changed.
Right. So today, he does not read many newspapers, as the internet is a far faster means of keeping up with the news. The printed paper is a dinosaur that will eventually vanish. With the advent of the computer and the internet, the public is getting what they crave, i.e. hundreds of sources of information, and most importantly, instantaneous news.
Now let's stop there and say, again, thank you for a great show, and I hope you both have a Merry Christmas, you too, Malcolm, and a Happy New Year. What's the next one, Paul?
So this is from Ralph.
Yeah.
As I live near the waterside, the commute to Route 1 is one long trip to or from.
That's true. You were trying to
And
create...
Ralph, what happens at 2:30 in the afternoon? It just that problem goes from bad to impossible.
Well, you came up with a great concept last week about extending...
I didn't come up with that. All I did was
You
convey
talked
something.
about Mr. Marsh, but you resurrected something that should be talked about.
Right.
And trust me, this year coming up, folks, that's going to be a topic of conversation like Sanctuary Cities was in the past.
And by the way, you know, people talk about, you know, we talk about this so that Lynn can kind of be rejuvenated and so forth. But it's not just for Lynn. It's for a lot of people that aren't necessarily Lynn now, or could be, or would want to become Lynn. It's a way to really transform an entire region.
Yes, but I'm more interested in Lynn right now, because the region's not interested in helping out Lynn.
No, I understand. But what my point is, the transformation of Lynn would be advantageous to the entire region, is my point.
Well, yeah, but I'm interested in Lynn.
It's short-sighted for them to say, I'm not doing it because I don't want to help Lynn.
Here's the whole point. Tom McGee has made a great point. Tom McGee, I congratulate you on the concept of infrastructure connectivity. It's a great phrase, and for few folks out there, it's very simple. He wants you to be able to get from Lynn to downtown Boston, which is 9 miles away, in short order. In that case, with a 2-way street, you'd have many folks who cannot afford Boston any longer be more than happy to come to Lynn and work in Boston. And that's precisely what we need happening. It's a great concept, Paul.
Yeah, and you know, I know we're short on time, but I would just say that in addition to this whole connectivity thing, as a member of the Seaport Economic Council, I think I alluded to this last week, and it's important for everybody to understand this. The Seaport Economic Council is looking at over 30 water ports along the eastern seaboard of Massachusetts as sites where they want to either consider putting ferries or expand the ferry capacity that's there now. And that includes what they're talking about in Lynn. So if we can figure out a way to make it work in Lynn, the governor and the lieutenant governor want to make it happen.
You talking about the ferry?
Yeah.
It's not cost-effective, Paul.
As a complement to a system that needs help.
It has to be cost effective, Paul. Otherwise, you're throwing bad money.
I'm with you there. Cost effective. But my point is they're trying to find a way to make it cost effective.
Well, we'll see. It's right now it's $25 a clip, and they're only charging $7, so that's minus 18.
Well, what they're doing
Tommy,
is they're doing a study to figure out how to make that work.
Study. Tom Fenton, Lynn. I love Tommy.
You going to read that one?
Route 1, 128 connection. The Lynnway has never been a consumer destination with the traffic, drugs, violence. Make it all industry. That's a point. But it's also a problem, Tim.
But that's kind of why it's the way it is because there was never any vision about what the Lynnway can and should be. It was kind of eclectic kind of uses. Nobody ever really had a broad vision of what they wanted on the Lynnway. So whatever came, and back in the day, whoever paid the most money to the elected officials got what they wanted, right?
Wow.
And that's why it became a car lot.
Joseph S. Esquire, yours truly, had a vision 40 years ago. They called it wacky, and it never was. Folks, here's the problem with the Lynnway. Very simple. To the east of Lynnway are fish. Fish don't shop. That's the problem with the Lynnway, the major problem. You have to identify the fact you're not going to get any traffic coming from the east, as opposed to Route 1, which is surrounded by population, by shoppers. The Lynnway, and plus, as you pointed out, the Lynnway, there's no access to it.
Right.
So if you were able to bridge it, as you mentioned, with the marsh scenario, that's a different issue.
Right.
So we gave Tim. We're going to look into that. Thanks for the comment. We have one more to do. Dear La McCulley, who says, I believe I will make out with the new tax bill. You certainly will. In general, that's the one the Republicans are putting forward, not the ones the Democrats are fighting against. Elizabeth Warren and your representative Moulton, both of them, want to take money out of your pocket. In general, it should help even things out. That's true, because the city is going to jack up the taxes, your real estate tax, so therefore you're going to get some money from the feds only to give it to the city of Lynn. That's what it really comes down to. Larry, profound, right to the point.
So can I don't know, we only have a minute left or
That's
whatever,
it.
so let me just say that, as an accountant, I've been looking closely at this, and also somebody who will be affected by it. And I can tell you that because of the effectively lowering of the tax rates, well, they actually expanded the 24% rate. They lowered it from 32, I think, from 33 to 24, and they expanded it. So if you were in the 33 rate, you're going to get a huge benefit from this, and those are people in the middle class.
They should. They pay the taxes.
But everybody says that the middle class is going to get screwed on the left, and they're wrong.
Absolutely wrong. Folks, you have a great, great holiday season. We'll see you after the new year with Frankly Speaking Live, Thursday at 5. Have a great, great holiday season.